Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation. Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. On this fourth day, we are 24 hours away from the start of the NFL season, folks. We've got Baltimore and Kansas City playing tonight. That's the AFC West and the AFC North. This is a replay of last year's national or AFC championship opponents there. Going to break both of those divisions down tonight. Predictions, preview. Do a game-by-game analysis. That's why it took me so long. I just got in here just in the nick of time. I've been working my butt off all week putting together these teams and breaking them down to make sure you get the best analysis for the NFL preview, okay? Also, got a few comments on the last episode of the Chicago Bears Hard Knocks, and I was pretty impressed, I'll tell you that, as a little teaser. So let's take our first and only break, and I'll be back here shortly after a few messages, and we'll hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports. Thank you. To get the National Streaming Sports channel on your Roku TV, channel search National Streaming Sports. There's the channel search in Roku. There's our logo right on the right, NESSP. Tap on the logo and it will add to your TV, the channel to your TV. On your laptop, tablet, and mobile phone, download the free Roku app and channel search just like above. If you don't have Roku TV, you have to order a Roku device from the Roku store, hook it up to your smart TV, and bang, you have Roku TV. Again, channel search, National Streaming Sports, click on our NESSP logo, and add the channel. National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
That's right. Bet responsibly. I want to thank Mac for that endorsement every night. I love playing that. Every girl crazy about a sharp-dressed man. I've been listening to a lot of the old ZZ Top hits here lately. I want to thank you. Anyways, okay. So Hard Knocks finished up, okay? And I will say this. The ownership of this team, let it be known right off the bat, I don't want anybody cursing on this program. I know a lot of the coaches get up there and curse like sailors and talk to the team, and this is supposed to be give you the behind the scenes look, but it just looks bad there. Miss Hallis there, I guess, is the owner, the lady that owns the organization there. And, you know, I've always thought it kind of looks sleazy to do that. And you say, well, it's not authentic. You know, this is a man's game. It's aggressive. Yes, that's true. That is true. But that being said, this is also the highest grossing game in the United States, probably in the world it is. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys are the most viable organization in all of sports, $10 billion. It's a good-looking product on TV. I'm a little annoyed that they're doing the streaming stuff, but it's the most popular sport in America, the most viewed, 127. That's the most. It's got the most viewed TV product in the world there, 125 million on the Super Bowl there. And you don't want your players and coaches cursing like sailors on TV with your logo on. So I kind of understand Miss Hallis for that. You know, can you cut the camera? Blah, blah, blah. I could see that kind of blowing up. But Chicago handled it with grace. Ryan Poles, he played for the Bears. He played for the Bears. He went to the training camp with the Bears in 2008, and he got cut. You know, he was an offensive lineman, and he got cut and went immediately into management after that. And now he's the general manager, very young, like 36, 37 years old there, under Brett Veach there with Kansas City. And I just love the fact that how he handled the cut process of the players, treating them like men and very respectful. I understand it's a business. The players understand it's a business. The coaching staff. That doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful to them as human beings. Very class. I would be really, really proud of the way everybody acted, not just beyond the non-cussing part. If I'm ownership and if I'm a fan of the Chicago Bears, I'm out of Nashville. I'm surprised the Titans have not been on Hard Knocks yet. And a lot of the teams have. I know Jacksonville's been on there. I want to say the Ravens, some of the Titans. I know teams really don't want to do it, but the NFL forces you in some cases. But, you know, they're going to have a good team. They're going to be really competitive. They're going to be right at 8-9, 9-8 type of team. They very well may make the playoffs and make a run this year. The cuts were pretty predictable this year. I will say this. Rookie quarterbacks, not second year. No rookie quarterback has ever led a team to the Super Bowl. But they have led them to the AFC championship game, to championship games per se. I mean, Brock Purdy, even though he got hurt early, championship game. Mark Sanchez, AFC championship game. I think he went to 2, actually, first 2 years, and then it kind of went downhill. Ben Roethlisberger, rookie, 15-1 AFC championship, only get put out by the New England Patriots. So it's possible that can happen with Caleb Williams. You know, I don't expect it to. I didn't predict it. I've already predicted that division. But either way, it was a good Hard Knocks. It wasn't as good as the front. I love the front office one. And just a side note about it, they will have the AFC North. They will have the AFC North there doing the Hard Knocks coming up in, I think, December. They're going to go through the entire division. You know, I wish they would do like the Amazon series, but except do it in real time, per se. I know they're going to do one coming up later on. That's going to be the whole AFC North. Last year, I forgot who they did last year, now that I think about it. But I know one year they did the Colts, and then the Colts get put out at the last game by Jacksonville. And then one year they did the Arizona Cardinals. The in-season one's good because the games are real. The stress is higher. You could feel it. You could feel the in-season one. Maybe they didn't do one last year. I can't remember. It's really bogging my mind. Either way, I know they'll have the AFC North this year, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. Speaking of the AFC North, let's go ahead and start there. I have done. Let me see. Who have I got here? Okay, we got the North and the West. So I've done all the NFC. Okay, and I've done the AFC East yesterday. All right, I'm going to do the AFC North today, and I'm going to do the West today. So that'll cover tomorrow, because that's when the first game started. At 7:20. I'll be recording the game, but I'm going to be on there tomorrow during the game, and I'll finish up the AFC South, Titans fans. I'll finish up the South, and I'll give you my playoff predictions and Super Bowl winner tomorrow. So make sure and tune in, and I'm hopefully to have the Mad New Yorker. He claims he will be here Friday. I'll get his. We'll go over last week's game, and I'll give you the Mad New Yorker's. The Mad New Yorkers take here. We'll go over our picks. And, of course, we'll pick the 5 biggest games this week, Friday, with the Mad New Yorker, folks. I'm flipping here through. Okay, perfect. Here we go. All right, the Ravens. The Ravens are the first team here. Now, you still got the returning offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. I know this Lindy's Magazine's picking them to finish first in the division. Here's my notes here. And they're not good. Although the Ravens, I know that the Ravens, they draft extremely well. They seem to not miss much at all. They bring in the right. Hey, Ashton, how you doing, brother? They bring in the right players. They seem to they just don't miss. Going from Ozzie Newsome to this new staff here, they're in management here with Eric DeCosta. It's really well put together. They've got Derrick Henry, former Tennessee Titan, but they did lose 3 offensive linemen, folks. And Pro Football Focus has them at 25th. And I know Lamar can run. I understand that. I was not a big Lamar Jackson guy for years, and he's won me over last year. That guy works hard. He makes adjustments to his game. But this year he's lost weight. He wants to be quicker. Maybe he knew the line was going to be better. Maybe he's wanting to run more. I hope that's not the case. I hope we just watched I just watched that Netflix documentary on the late, great Steve McNair, who also won an MVP and played in the Super Bowl. McNair's technically more successful quarterback than Lamar Jackson because he got to a Super Bowl, and Lamar's only won 2. Now, he's still young. He's only 27. He's only won 2 playoff games since being in the league since 2018. But, again, Pro Football Focus coming in, 3rd-ranked offensive line, 3 starters down on the offensive line, all right? And one NFL analyst, Charles McDonald, said this may be the worst offensive line in the league, and that you just don't hear that about a Baltimore Raven team. For example, they lost Ronnie Stanley a few years ago, and he's not played that many games. He got an injury after his extension. Their left tackle, they got out of Notre Dame, and now he's back per se. Ronnie Stanley is back, but you've got Lindenbaum there at center, but 3 offensive linemen. You got a analyst saying this it is some concern there for them. And also, they did lose a really good linebacker there, Patrick Queen. He signed with the rival Steelers. So I get, you signed Roquan Smith, gave him a big contract. You gave Lamar the big contract last year. And Zay Flowers, by the way, they did hit him. I mean, Flowers, he was balling out last year. 77 catches, 858 yards, 5 touchdowns. For Lamar Jackson, that's good. That's been his problem. He's throwing people open and throwing out of the pocket on a consistent basis, per se. I'm not as high on this. Magazine is still picking. They're still picking the Ravens to win the AFC North. I think they're going to take a step. For one thing, I think they're going to lose tomorrow, okay? With those 3 offensive linemen injured, and I could see – not quite the defense they've had before, losing a guy like a Patrick Queen. I do think Kansas City at home, they're going to beat them again. I like that in Kansas City -3, actually, to be honest with you. So I do got them losing tomorrow. But, they play Vegas next week. They're going to beat Vegas at home. They play at Dallas. I told you already, I think they're going to beat Dallas. But then they got Buffalo and at Cincinnati. It's a 2-game losing streak there, but they bounce back. They're playing Washington. Then they play at Tampa. Then they play at Cleveland. That'll be their next loss. But they got Denver at home. They got Cincinnati again on a short week in Baltimore. I like them to win that game, per se. Okay. They also play at the Chargers. On Monday night, they play the AFC West, the whole West, just not the whole. So that they're playing at the Chargers there Monday night. Got them losing that game, and then they have a short week and play Philadelphia. So I got them losing that Philadelphia game. But here's the good news for the Raven fans: they get a late bye week. Their bye week is December 8th. If they're all together by then, that's really good. You can go on a run. I've seen teams do it. What was it, a week 9 bye week for Tampa one year, and that's the year they went on a run. May have been a little bit later than that, but it was a pretty late bye. Went on a run with Tom Brady, and they ended up ultimately winning the Super Bowl. So, always Pittsburgh, no matter how bad Pittsburgh is, for whatever reason, they always find a way to beat Baltimore. Baltimore had the best record in the NFL last year. And Pittsburgh, that first game, I still don't know how Pittsburgh won that game. And I watched it live. Pittsburgh ended up winning that game, the first game they played last year. And just a couple fluke plays, and Pittsburgh found a way to beat them. And then the last game, I think Baltimore they benched their starters, but Pittsburgh swept them last year. So I think they're going to lose one of these Pittsburgh, if not both of them, especially if Russell Wilson can stay healthy. Pro Football Focus, they're a little bit higher on the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. But long story short here, I've got this Raven team. The over and under for the Ravens is 10.5. That's right on the money where I got them. I got them at 11. You 10.5, you round up. 11 wins if Jackson stays healthy. If Lamar don't stay healthy, this team's not going to make the playoffs. They've got some holes in their team right now. I do not think that the backup quarterback, and I don't even know who that is, probably Josh Johnson, or maybe second-year Malik Cunningham out of Louisville. So it doesn't look good. It does not look good if Lamar gets hurt. Okay, so, you've got Derrick Henry. How good is that running game going to be with those linemen down? Are you going to be able to run out of center? If you give him the ball out of shotgun, it's not going to be good. He's going to have the same kind of success or lack thereof it that he had here in Tennessee. But we'll find out tomorrow. We shall find out tomorrow. Hope the best for the guys. I like the attitude of Lamar Jackson. He seems like a pretty good guy. I see him doing the stuff for sick kids in hospitals and stuff. And I think he's a very sincere person. But hey, listen, 11-6, that's a pretty good considering what they've lost. And as much as he runs and stuff, that could be this could be a high risk year for Lamar to get hurt. But I think he's tough, and I know the Ravens are deep. Even though these are unknown players, they seem to always find a way to figure out the defense is always good. You know, it might not be great, but it's always good. You know? Okay, now just going in the order of this magazine, folks. Okay, now we've got Cincinnati. They've had a pretty intense offseason, to say the least. You've got T. Higgins. He held out, and then he signed this franchise tag, okay? He's on the franchise. Now we've got Ja'Marr Chase. He was listed as limited today, calling him in a hold-in. If Ja'Marr Chase walks out of the door for Cincinnati and says, I'm going to sit the entire season and not unless you give me a contract extension, I still think this team can win games and possibly win the Super Bowl. It's about the quarterback. We say, why do you so much confidence in that? I don't know. Tyreek Hill's traded over to the Miami Dolphins, and the Kansas City Chiefs won 2 Super Bowls. This is about Joe Burrow staying healthy. Burrow has put on some extra weight this year. He knows that guys like me and people with much bigger platforms, Joe Burrow knows that people are starting to criticize him for being an injury-prone player. That is a legit criticism. He's got to watch himself. I felt like he probably could have prevented that risk injury if he'd have been paying more attention in that Ravens game. The Ravens are pretty rough on you, you know. The second year with Orlando Brown, who was it, Mims, the guy they got from Georgia early in the first round, he's not even listed as a starter. So I do think that line is going to be in much better shape here. This offensive line here is going to be in much better shape than it has been. And it wasn't that bad last year. They had a winning record last year, even when Burrow went down. Their biggest bugaboo last year was replacing that secondary, okay? And who was it? Jesse Bates. For example, I mean, Houston was moving the ball up and down the field on Cincinnati last year. A couple big throws there by C.J. Stroud last year. Houston went on the road and knocked them out, and I thought, man, they really are missing Jesse Bates. And now they're missing Awuzie because Tennessee signed him at the secondary position. But they've added Von Bell back, you know. They've added Von Bell back and Geno Stone, another safety. Not to mention the fact that you can watch their players get much better as the season went along. They had some young players they were putting in that secondary, per se. And I think, no exaggeration, Lou Anarumo, that defensive coordinator, is probably second only to Steve Spagnuolo of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this guy's that good. I mean, he's got those players jumping routes and stuff. Remember the three interceptions in the Tennessee game by the Cincinnati defense. Cincinnati's got off to slow starts traditionally every year since Burrow's been there. I don't think that's going to happen. No appendix being taken out. He's gained the extra weight. Ja'Marr Chase is a distraction, but you've got Jermaine Burton. They've got in the draft, had a really good camp there. Jermaine Burton, 3rd round pick out of Alabama, but also Higgins has also played the entire. He has played the entire preseason there, and he hasn't missed any count per se. And the fact that they got rid of Joe Mixon, that was addition by subtraction. I think Joe Mixon has lost a step. I don't think he's going to do anything with Houston. But I do like Zach Moss, the running back speedster they picked up out of the Colts. Remember, he led them to a big win over Baltimore, at Baltimore, Zach Moss here. And then not to mention the fact that they've got Chase Brown, another quick running back there, pass-catching running back. I really like this offense, head to toe, offensive line. Trey Henderson, he was a holdout. He came back on the defensive line. They did lose DJ Ritter, but I think they're going to be okay. I think that pending injury, I really think this team, Sam Hubbard's back. I mean, they still got a lot of really good players on that defensive line, and they're extremely well coached. Do they have the talent overall as a Pittsburgh on the defensive line or defense as a whole? No, and I still probably not as Baltimore either. Baltimore's got some bigger names on the secondary. So I did look up their secondary according to Pro Football Focus here, and it did not fall off that much that I thought that it would be. They've got them rated, I know I wrote it down, 14th. And I was thinking maybe it would be more in the 20s towards the lower end. It's about mid-level. But if you got a guy like Burrow in that offense, I think they're going to be A-okay. Okay? Again, this team was, they lost 27-24 to the Ravens last year. They lost, what was it? They won that game. 30-27 to Houston. That was the game right there where they should have won that game. I think a lot of those arrows are going to be cleaned up, especially bringing in guys like Von Bell and whatnot. Pending injury, but I can't predict injury, folks. I mean, I'm just giving you an educated guess. So I got this team 13-4. I said 14-3, probably a little too generous there. Let's say 13-4 for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I will roll on. We'll go on to the next team and preview the next team here, and I'll give you the entire AFC North when I get done previewing everybody else. Okay, now Cleveland. Cleveland, an interesting team. I tell you what, very good comeback last year for Cleveland, considering the fact they lost both of their tackles, offense, right tackle and left tackle there. And they got Nick Chubb in a god-awful injury, and was it week 2 last year in the Pittsburgh game? That gruesome injury. He's working to come back here. And it looks like there's a good chance, although both have a question mark, that Jedarick Willis, the left tackle, and the right tackle, who they got from Tennessee, Jack Conklin, I should have known that off the top of my head, will be back. But these guys have been kind of in, especially Jack Conklin. That's why Tennessee let him go. He's been an injury-prone player, very talented player. They did go out and get Jerry Jeudy. And so they upped that receiving core. That's going to be good. Everything's going to come down to Deshaun Watson. Man, you've got to stay healthy. You're going to have to play 17 games, my friend, if you're watching, okay? I've defended Deshaun Watson to the cows come home, I think it was a good idea for what Cleveland done. I knew they had a really good roster. I knew they got a lot of criticism because of these accusations and whatnot and these lawsuits with Deshaun Watson. But it sent a memo out to other free agents to say this ownership is for real about winning football games. We will pay that fully guaranteed contract. Now, the problem with his contract, you're up in the 20s in cap hit, 23, 24% cap hit this year, and it gets even worse next year. A massive, massive cap hit. I know you got guys like Andrew Berry, Harvard guys, supposed to be cap analyst there. You know, I like what they did with their defense and whatnot, bringing in the coordinator that they did. They was the best team in the league against the pass. So, you know, they can't, and plus Kevin Stefanski, now they did, going back to the offense, they went on and fired, I want to say Scott Van Pelt. I think it's the guy with ESPN, isn't it? I better look at my notes here. Alex Van Pelt, their offensive coordinator last year. And Stefanski's supposed to be going to be calling the plays, which I don't know why. You got Ken Dorsey actually as an offensive coordinator. Not a big fan of Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey, the same Ken Dorsey that tore up the stuff in the press box for Buffalo a few years ago. Buffalo fired him last year in the middle of the season, or like November or something like that. And now they're, I think it's Joe Barry. I can't remember. Their new offensive coordinator, they were doing better. So I'm not in love with that, with the Ken Dorsey. Plus, with this banged up, aging offensive line at those two tackles per se, they don't have Bill Callahan coaching them anymore. He's with the Titans with his son, Brian. Bill Callahan, arguably one of the absolute best offensive line coaches in the NFL. So the pressure's really going to be on Deshaun Watson to clean up his mechanics and really get back to that level that he played at, and he's supposedly totally 100% healthy from that shoulder injury. The AFC North is worse. I mean, it's rougher than the AFC South. He took some pretty bad hits in that Pittsburgh game, and Tennessee finished him off. Even though he beat up on Tennessee, that shoulder really bothered him. And then we know what happened, but they still made the playoffs per se. So this is a tough team to figure out with his cap hits and losing their offensive coordinator like that. They still got a reasonably good defense there. I mean, you got a good pass rush there. They were the best team in the league against the pass last year. Okay. We'll see how this thing works out per se. But either way, I've got this team because I'm not sure about that line's health and what would happen if that line does get banged up again, which it could. It's the most physical division in the football over the last few years. I've got them going 8.5, or excuse me, that over and under. Vegas has got them at 8.5. I got them at 9-8. They'll be a borderline playoff team. Of course, I'll give you my predictions and we'll go over the playoffs tomorrow. So I got them at 9-8. I'm just not as high on them as I've been over the last 2 years. Maybe Watson takes off with this crew and has this great year and shocks the world. But we'll see. With that cap hit, they really couldn't do a lot around him. I thought they would be better at structuring his contract. Okay, Steelers. Ralph Williams, if you're out there. The Pittsburgh Steelers, that I know they just extended Cam Hayward. Ralph acts like he didn't like that. You know, they gave him a few years extra on. Said he was overpaid. I've always liked Cam Hayward. I know he's watched my show a few times when I was on the Periscope out. It said his verified account watched the program. So, you know, helps that run defense. I'm sure T.J. Watt likes having a guy like a Cam Hayward swallowing up the block so he can roam free and rush the passer. They did add Patrick Queen. Like I said earlier, they got Baltimore's middle linebacker there, or outside linebacker, Patrick Queen there in free agency. He's a good player. I thought maybe Tennessee may get him, but Pittsburgh gave him a lot of money. They moved off Matt Canada. We know about that last year. And they've hired former Tennessee offensive coordinator / Atlanta Falcons head coach Arthur Smith to take over for the offensive play calling duties and install that offense. that would be perfect for Russell Wilson. Pro Football Focus, pretty high on their offensive line. That has been down over the years. But, hey, they've been really invested high draft picks. At some point you got to hit, right, on these players here. But they got them at like seven in the NFL. So this is ninth. I looked at my notes wrong. Okay. Got them ninth best in the NFL when they were one of the worst a couple of years ago. That's a big deal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'll tell you, they moved off Kenny Pickett last year. They really just needed an offensive-minded head coach. I think, like Pete Carroll and Belichick, things have gotten stale up there. This is the most loyal family in the league to their head coaches. 3 coaches since 1969. They're just not, like Ralph Williams said, they'll he'll work these next 3 years in this contract. He'll retire after 20. And that's what he predicted. And I think that's what's going to happen with this Pittsburgh team. So Vegas likes them at around 8.5. Okay. A lot of this depends on if Wilson plays all 17 games, they got a really good shot at a 10-7, 11-6 type of game. Now, you're talking about a guy, what's he, 36, 37 years old. He can't see over the line sometimes. That was his big issue coming out of Denver. He's not quite as quick, but, they got Justin Fields from Chicago for practically nothing. And they got Russell Wilson for practically nothing. Fields ain't going to cut it. Fields is not going to cut it here. I wouldn't even think about winning anything if you got Justin Fields. He's just not getting it right now, and he's not going to get it in this particular offense. Okay, so they got George Pickens. They needed help at receiver. I'm surprised. There was talks that maybe they was going to get Brandon Ayuk, and it just kind of fell through the cracks there. But, they've always done a good job at drafting guys. They picked up Van Jefferson there. They've got Pickens. Now, I do like their tight end, Pat Freiermuth there. Denzel Mims, pretty mediocre receiving core there. You really need Pickens to play well. He needs to play like an Antonio Brown type of season per se. But I do like their running backs there, And I'm really liking this other guy over Najee Harris here, this Jaylen Warren here. He's quick. He kind of reminds me of the Chase Brown out of Cincinnati. So looking at their schedule, they were 10-8 last year. God, I really studied this stuff. When they play an opponent, are they playing somebody off a Monday night game? Are they coming off of a Monday night game? Are they playing a team off a bye week, road, home? And I still come up, and this is typical Steelers, 9-8. And that's if Wilson gets hurt and misses 4 or 5 games, this team's going to be below 500. But I got them at 9-8. Just really not in love with the Steelers this year. Now, it looks good on paper, but you saw their preseason, and I thought about Wilson's play, and I thought about a guy like how bad Justin Fields is. And there's only so much you can do with defense in this league, So anyways, skipping through the South, I will give the AFC South tomorrow, Titans fans. I have not forgotten about you, okay? But first, getting a little ahead of myself, and I got a little bit of a headache. I'm playing through it. Okay. Probably a little over, what do you call it? I may be overconfident in Cincinnati for the AFC North. I've got them at 13-4. I just think that this is good. This is the best I've seen Joe Burrow preseason so far. I just don't. They start off against the Patriots. They should win Sunday. They should cover that 7.5 points. That should be like a 24-6 game. Even without Jamar Chase, I think they get off to a good start. I think they beat Kansas City. So I've got them at 13-4. Again, that's maybe a little generous. I've got Baltimore at 11-6. That's probably going to be a wild card team. And Pittsburgh at 9-8. Cleveland at 9-8. Pittsburgh wins a tiebreaker. Cleveland finishes 4th in that division. There's a chance that maybe Cleveland might move on from Stefanski. I'm not sure. Everything goes back to balancing out that salary of Deshaun Watson. Okay. Moving on to the west side. The west side, the way Ice Cube would say it. Denver. Okay, let's start off in the Mile High City. Denver moved off of, speaking of the devil, Russell Wilson. He's going to be $53 million dead cap hit. And then next year, he's going to be a $32 million dead cap hit. Now, I'll say this. The Rams had $70 million in dead cap last year. They got to the playoffs and almost beat had Detroit really on their heels there at the end. I thought, and just between me and you folks, that Detroit got away with a few muggins of Puka Nacua there that didn't get called at the end. But I digress. So Denver, the fans know this. The ownership knows this. They want to go with Sean Payton. They think he's the man. They did beat Kansas City last year. They had some good moments last year. I know they gave up 70 points early on to Miami, but they rebounded. But there was still tension there between Wilson because he's going off script too much. And I see what Sean Payton was saying. Hey, man, I drew up all these freaking plays. I worked all week. I sit here hours and hours in the office, and you're blowing these plays off time and time again. And maybe it's because he couldn't see across the line or over the line because he's not the tallest guy in the world. Pete Carroll just let all that stuff go because he knew about his running game and defense. Long story short, we know what happened. Now they've got Bo Nix. They drafted him in the first round. Everything I read and hear, guys like Mark Schlereth, who former offensive lineman, 3 Super Bowls, out of Denver, radio station there, says that this guy was killing it in camp here. When he had 60-plus starts in college, he's a mature guy. Sean Payton's very high on Bo Nix. He's going to be the day one starter. If Bo Nix works out, all that stuff for Russell Wilson's going to be water under the bridge. It'll be yesteryear. And if he don't, I don't know. Maybe ownership, moves on from Sean Payton. I don't know. I would probably give Sean Payton a few more years, considering the situation that he's in, per se. Also, they lost Justin Simmons. This is part of the money, the cap issues. Lloyd, Cassenberry, that's their center. He went over here to Tennessee. I was looking at Pro Football Focus. They had him at a 10th ranked best center in the NFL. So they lost him. So they've still got 8 offensive players coming back. Then you add in Bo Nix there, the Jerry Jeudy, moved off of him. So the receiving core is Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims. Now, Mims is the second-year guy of Oklahoma. He looks to be promising for them. He looks to be promising. Of course, you got Javonte Williams and that running game and short passing game. They're going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to be interesting. I want to see what Bo Nix looks like, But all that being said, they signed Surtain to an extension today. So they got their lead corner. They're probably going to have to add a few defensive pieces over the next offseason. This is a season really just to get Bo Nix broke in with the kind of starts that he has, with the comfort level he has in Sean Payton's offense. Probably a good idea not to let him sit. This may be one of those rare situations where the team's not going to be very good this year anyways. Go ahead and get his feet wet. He's very comfortable with the system. Good deal. Go ahead and do your thing. I would prefer let a player sit, but I'm okay with this particular situation playing out the way it is. I've got the over and under is 5.5 according to Vegas. I got them right at 5-12, maybe 6-11, and it'll set up for another good draft for them and being able to establish, get some pass rushers there and be able to clean that cap up a little bit. Now, they'll still have some Russell Wilson money next year, but it won't be as much. It'll be like 30 instead of 50 per se. And they were 8-9 last year, so maybe they can be a shocking team here. They're playing at Seattle in week 1, kind of like they did last year, right? Or a couple of years ago. And, they play the AFC North here. But you know what? I got them. Again, they beat Kansas City last year. They're a team that you just never know what you're going to get out of this team. And, of course, the Raiders I'll talk about here in just a little bit. No particular order. I'm just going in the order of this magazine. Okay, now Kansas City. A lot of talk about Kansas City. By the way, Marquise Hollywood Brown will not play tomorrow. He's already been ruled out. He's already been ruled out of tomorrow's game against the Ravens here. And, of course, I'm a little concerned about their left tackle position. They're going with the second-round pick here. Kansas City, what am I doing here? Okay. They lost Donovan Smith there. He left in free agency, I guess. Kingsley Samantha, second-year Samanthia, I guess is his name. Second-round pick out of BYU. He's a rookie. Now, they did replace 2 tackles last year, the Chiefs did, and they won the Super Bowl. And one of them was lining up off sides the very first game. But, Andy Reid, he fixed it. Again, they did lose L'Jarius Sneed to Titans. They got their cornerback there, their leading corner. But, Chris Jones is re-signed. They did sign speedster Xavier Worthy, who seemed to be having a really good camp here. I think he's going to make some noise. He might score tomorrow, Xavier Worthy there. And, of course, Rashid Rice, he got in all this trouble in the offseason with that wreck and everything, but he hasn't been suspended, and he's not on any exempt list as of today. That's 24. So he's going to play tomorrow. Kelsey's going to play tomorrow. So they're not going to look bad. They're not going to look bad at all. So I got them winning tomorrow, getting off to a good start. Now they play Cincinnati the next week. I think Cincinnati's going to beat them the next week. And just browsing over their schedule and everything, Vegas has them at 11.5 wins. I got them at 12-5. Okay, I got them at 12-5. They're just a tough team. They really, and I mentioned this the other day, Jason said he would be willing to come on and talk Chiefs with me. And Jason, I hear you, brother. Jason Patterson, if you want to possibly hear the next 2 weeks or so, of course, I had this week booked up. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. We might be able to talk a little Chiefs after the first few games and see what's going on with them. But as of right now, Brett Veach, I trust and whatnot. I got this team at 12-5. I think they're going to be pretty good. So I'm gonna finish up this division, and I'll give you my full breakdown of it here in just a second. Now the Raiders here, like I said, I'm just no particular order going through the AFC West. Antonio Pierce, really tough-minded head coach here, beating that Kansas. By the way, they beat Kansas City last year. Okay. You know, they're going to win with physicality. They're a quarterback away, possibly. They signed Gardner Minshew. He ends up beating out, who was it? Who was their starter now? Aiden O'Connell, which tells me right now, you know, we all know he's limited. Minshew. He's decent, but he's limited. He's going to be a limited player. But, you know, this team right here, this Raider team, they may have the best tight end room in the NFL. They've got Harrison Bryant from Cleveland, who is no slouch by no means. And we know they drafted the sensational Georgia's Brock Myers, but also they got Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. He's in the second year, so that's a well of a tight end group right there, you know. So, and also they signed Christian Wilkins from Miami to play beside Max Crosby, one of the best pass rushers in the league. And we still got Devontae Adams there. They did lose Josh Jacobs, like I said. Running backs, not that big, you know. Not a huge running back guy. Zamir White, they're gonna lean on the third-year player, Zamir White there. And Amir Abdullah. Not the best running back room in the world, but, you know, they got 7 players on offense come back, 9 on defense. And, you know, again, big Christmas Day win last year for them. So you just don't know what you're going to get out of this team. You're going to get a feisty team that can beat anybody, including that Kansas City team. And they can lose anybody because they got Gardner Minshew playing, you know. The over and under is 6.5. And I got them at a feisty 6-11. They might be 7-10, 8-9, something like that. They're just not going to be one of those teams you can snooze on and say, the Raiders are the same old Raiders. Pierce, that was just a fluke. I don't think that's going to be the case. Could be wrong. It could be a Romeo Crennel type of situation where he took over the Chiefs one year. This was years ago. They beat an undefeated Green Bay team, and they went on and hired Romeo Crennel, and they were awful the next year, and I think they fired him like shortly after that. He didn't that was a former defensive coordinator there. I don't think that's going to be the case here, but we'll see. Again, I got them at 6-11. Okay. Last but not least, the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh. I mean, in the pros, this is the most talented player he's ever had at quarterback. I know he coached Andrew Luck in college with Stanford, but this guy, you know, Jim Harbaugh, remember, he took a team that was, 500 or less. They was under 500, had a good defense, though. 49 got them to AFC Championship games just like that. Next year, Super Bowl. And then he started having his fallouts with the owner, you know, typical Harbaugh. So anyways, Greg Roman coached Lamar Jackson. Remember, he was Lamar Jackson's coach in the second year. You know, got an MVP, won 14 games. Moment was too big for him against Tennessee, lost that playoff game. Also coached Colin Kaepernick. This guy is a better passer than both of those players on a consistent basis. All right. Herbert is a better player. And this team, although they let Mike Williams go and they got rid of, these are both cap guys, Mike Williams had injury problems, and Keenan Allen was getting older. They still got Quentin Johnson. Looked like he was kind of catching on towards the end of the year. And I want to say they got Josh Palmer still on that team, along with Lad McConkey, Georgia player, rookie there, who is fast as all, with Hayden Hurst at tight end. That's not a bad. Yeah, they still got Josh Palmer, 4-year player out of Tennessee. That receiving core is still decent. Not to mention the fact they got Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater to protect Herbert. Not to mention Gus Edwards being able to be able to run the football. I want to say they got J.K. Dobbins. They're going to be a physical, run the ball, pass rush team. My only concern is maybe possibly injuries on defense. Khalil Mack is a little long in the tooth. They still got him. They still got Bosa. They got a fair secondary, Darwin James and whatnot, Samuel Jr. They're probably a little weak in the middle. And that's really where you need to be the strongest at. But other than that, protect your quarterback, get pressure on the other quarterback, okay? Protect your quarterback. That's what they got. They got Alton Slater. They got on the offensive side, and they've got Bosa and Khalil Mack, if he stays healthy, as the pass rush. So I'm pretty high on this team. I was real high at first, said maybe 13-4, even though they were 8.5 over and under. That was a little too generous there. I got them at 12-5, okay? I got them at 12-5 going over. I know what Harbaugh could do. I know the talent on this team. I know how mediocre Brandon Staley was. I know what they did a couple years ago. They should have won that Jacksonville game a couple years ago. So here is the final tally of the AFC West. Kansas City, 12-5. They beat the tiebreaker. LA Chargers, 12-5. They get that wild card. That's wild card, okay? And then Vegas at 6-12, a feisty 6-12, and Denver 6-11. Excuse me. Vegas at 6-11, and Denver at 5-12 there in the AFC West. We'll see. Maybe the Chargers win it. Maybe they win it. You know, maybe Brett Veach has pushed the envelope too much on gambling on left tackles for Patrick Mahomes. Okay, maybe that Kansas City team is getting older on defense, by the way, but Chris Jones, if they get just a few injuries here and there, they could get beat. They can get beat during the regular season, especially if Jones ain't there. Although they got the best, coordinator in the game. But right now, I've got them winning the West at 12-5. Second place, the LA Chargers, 12-5, but they lose a tiebreaker. And in Vegas, 6-11, Denver at 5-12. So I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do the AFC South, Tennessee fans. I haven't forgot about you. We'll start this as soon, and I'll get right on this as soon as just before kickoff. We'll have this taken care of. And plus, I'll also give you my playoff teams and Super Bowl pick tomorrow, okay? So if you like the show, share the show. Appreciate you, Ashton. Ashton Nix watching the program and sharing the show. Ralph Williams, Scott Morgan, Rolf, Olivia, sister there handling me out with sharing the program. So, and of course, all my friends at National Streaming Sports. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you same time, same place here on the Real Sports Scope.